Sound, was it okay? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started out of respect for everyone's time. Again, happy that all of you all are here. Based on passenger traffic through June of this year, Den is the third busiest airport in the world, only behind Atlanta and DFW. So there is a huge increase in terms of volume of the flying public. We have the fastest recovery of any large hub in the U.S. just based on operations and passenger traffic. Also going into COVID, Den was the largest operation for a number of airlines. Frontier, that remains true today as well. We are now the largest operation for Southwest Airlines, and in Q1 and Q2 of 2021, we were the largest operation for United as well. So this is unprecedented for a U.S. airport to be the largest operation for 3 airlines, and so this is a big deal for Den. Den is strategically located geographically for this country. It's 2 hours away from the West Coast, 3 hours and give or take a few minutes from the East Coast. And so in terms of just geographic location, we are, for all intents and purposes, in the middle of the country, which is, I think, contributing to the large volume and the increase in passengers. In 2019, as most of you know, we were at 69 million passengers annually, and that was a big number, but we anticipate that number increasing next year. And in our budget, we are forecasting about 72.8 million from that baseline of 2019 of 69 million passengers. So people are traveling. It is, all you have to do is look out at the lines right now, and you can see people are traveling. So we have a lot of work to do to retrofit this airport. I like to say that this is the same airport, but more people. And this airport was designed for 50 million annual passengers, and as I mentioned, in 2019 we were at 69, and it is growing. We are, just like any other industries, we're experiencing lots of staffing shortages across the board, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. We're doing some things to rectify that, but the market is such that people are taking their time to find work. But we know it's a great place to work out here at Den. I have enjoyed my time here since I started about 3 months ago or so, but I've been using this airport for over 20 years during my time here previously, and during my time when I was in the military, when I first came to Colorado and retired from the military. I do want to talk a little bit about the staffing because I think it's important, and talk a little bit about our capital construction program that is ongoing. I think many of you know we have a grand opening of phase 1 of this terminal next week, October 27th, and we will be taking the walls that you see out here down in the middle of the terminal. We have already started doing that, and the airlines will move into those spaces, and they'll be open to the public in early November, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Let me talk first about the long lines, because I think that that is very, very relevant, and it is sort of tied to the passenger volumes and the increase that I talked about a minute ago. First of all, we understand that this is not ideal for our passengers. And I am in the terminal every day, and I see the long lines. The first thing I will say is we appreciate the patience of the traveling public, and we intend to make this better for the traveling public. Some of the things that we're doing in terms of the long lines, and I had the opportunity to meet with the TSA administrator just this past Monday. I was in Washington and sat down with him for over an hour talking about how we can improve. One of the things that we need to do is build more infrastructure. Infrastructure meaning we need to build more lanes. Right now, at max, when we have all lanes open, we're at about 28 lanes, security lanes. With the full build out, if the council approves, pending council approval, we will go to 42 lanes. That will make a drastic difference. But in the meantime, we need to build out 4 additional lanes very quickly here. And just to give you an understanding of the volume that moves through these lanes, when we build these 4 temporary lanes, I'll call them, that's 600 people per hour. And so that makes a lot of difference when you talk about the thousands of people that are moving through this airport. And so we need to build that additional infrastructure in terms of security lanes. The TSA has committed to staffing those lanes. They have already deployed canine dogs to help with the throughput of people through the lanes. They have been very, very aggressive in sending other crews from other airports here, understanding that that Den is in a weird place in terms of security lanes. They have, in terms of hiring and retention, they have offered bonuses, retention bonuses, hiring bonuses. But I think what this boils down to is an understanding that there's going to be an impact as we continue this construction project, but this work is necessary for the increased volumes. As I said earlier, this airport was designed with 50 million passengers in mind, and we're talking next year of 72. And so it's like renovating your house while you're still living in it, because we're still operating and we're building new infrastructure. So the long lines, I think we will work through that. I think the holiday period will be tough, this holiday period, as we build out additional lanes in this airport. But I see light at the end of the tunnel in terms of early next year and after the holidays. I also see advanced technology being deployed in this airport with regard to security lanes. We are going to be putting up the wait line times on our website so people can see that. I envision having sort of just like at amusement parks, if you're standing here, you are 15, 20 minutes away from the screener or getting through security, just like you go to an amusement park. A lot of times those amusement parks, you're in the line and it says 3 hours until you get to the ride. We hope we don't have to go there. But that type of technology is what we see. In talking with the administrator, he talked about biometrics, he talked about touchless screening, and we're all in for that. My commitment to him and the TSA was that we want to be a sort of an incubator, and we want to be sort of the test airport from, of any airport around the country to test that new technology. And so we're primed to do that. But all that said, we need to really make sure that passengers understand, and we've put this out in our social media, that we're recommending people be in the airport 2 hours before their flight. And I think during the holidays, that's going to be very, very important. In terms of parking, there has been a lot of questions on parking. One of the reasons for the some parking lots being closed is simply we don't have the drivers. Now, this is, no different from many of the other industries. School districts, school bus drivers, transit bus operators, and we are experiencing the same thing. What we are proposing and what we are planning, though, is to look to waive some of the requirements in the existing contract that call for a commercial driver's license to be hired. What we are looking into is whether we can bring on folks without a CDL or commercial driver's license and use smaller vehicles until they are trained and receive their CDL. And so what this is instead of having that requirement that they must walk in the door with a commercial driver's license, what we're saying is that we want them to come in. They don't need to have one. We'll train them up for that CDL. And then in the meantime, we will use smaller vehicles, sort of cutaway vehicles, we call them, to move people from the outlying parking lots to the terminal. And so that is what we are planning to do right now. And I think you will see, or the public will see, those lots open. We are actually opening up the Pikes Peak lot this weekend. You may have seen that, to relieve some of the parking challenges that we have. We had a janitorial contractor one-day protest, I guess I'll call it. And before I, talk a little bit about that, let me just say that we appreciate the work that all of our employees out here do, whether it is the concession workers, whether it is our janitorial teams, whether it is our parking attendants. They perform a vital function for this airport. And so we appreciate what they do. Right now, the contractor, Flagship, and the janitors, the janitorial union, they're still in negotiations regarding contract wages. As I mentioned, they did. There was a work stoppage for one day a week or so ago. They are at the table, and we are monitoring that as we move ahead. Let me talk just a little bit about customer service, because I think you've seen what we call our purple shirts out there that are assisting people in finding their way around the airport. They have returned. They're out there, all day, and also in the evening hours. These are employees of DEN who are volunteering their own time, and actually I think we pay them a little bit of a stipend, so but they're doing it out the kindness of their heart as well. So they're out there helping people along and helping people find where to go. On my way over here, we had a lady stop us, and our executive coordinator showed her back to the A bridge security. So we do that. I do that as well as when I walk through the airport. Let me talk just a little bit about some of the projects that we're doing. I'll start with the gate expansion. I think you all are aware that we are building 39 new gates. This is really indicative of the increased passenger volume that we have in this airport. All those gates are taken and spoken for by the airlines. The airlines want more gates. Those 39 gates, we are well along the way. In November of last year, we opened up 4 new gates on B West. B East, those additional gates there will open in early 2022, next year. And C East and A West will open in the spring of 2022. Over and beyond those 39 new gates, there is demand for even more gates, 12 to 15 more gates. And so while those are not approved yet, we see a great demand for additional gates even beyond the 39 that will open in the next 6 to 8 months or so. In terms of the Great Hall, you all are well aware, I believe, that we are building the Great Hall in 3 phases. Phase 1, as I mentioned, which is the middle of this terminal, we will have a grand opening next week, October 27th. The airlines will move into those gates in early November, and the public will be able to have access to those gates, namely level 6 East. Southwest will move into that area, Southwest East, on November the 4th. And United will move into level 6 West on November the 10th. And then we will be operational ready, if you will, with all of those by November 10th, and they will be open to the public. So we have a lot of work to do with regard to moving airlines into those areas, but we're up to that task, and we will do that. In terms of phase 2 of the Great Hall project, which will move security on the north end from level 5 to level 6, we have already started that phase 2, and we will complete that in the next 15, 18 months. And we are determining the scope for the final phase of the terminal, phase 3, that will move the south security right outside this door to the north end to level 6. We have no choice but to renovate what we have here at this airport because of the increased passenger volumes. And we are about the business of doing that. One of the things that I've talked about and I've coined is this idea of Vision 100. And Vision 100 is the getting this airport ready for 100 million passengers in the next 5 to 8 years. That is Vision 100. Now, Vision 100 has 4 pillars. The 4 pillars of Vision 100, the first pillar are people, getting our people trained and ready to reach and accommodate 100 million passengers. And so people will say, well, what is that? That is training our folks, that is reaching out to the community, that is introducing the aviation industry to people in the community, minority communities, young kids, introducing them to the aviation industry, starting in the 8th grade, and creating an aviation career pathway to grow our own in this industry. It also includes, in terms of that first pillar of people, to make sure that we create what I call an aviation center of excellence where people all over the world will say, if you want to recruit people, especially young people, or middle managers that are the best in aviation, come to the Rocky Mountain region. And so we're going to be building and have already started building that aviation career pathway for the industry. The second pillar of this Vision 100 is our capital projects that I mentioned to you. Most of the airports in this country have turned into just large construction sites. And we are no different. When you go to LaGuardia, that is a huge construction site. You go to LAX in Los Angeles, a $14 billion program. When you go to O'Hare, the remodernization program that's been going on for almost 20 years. And so these have become construction sites because of the increase in travel, whether that is leisure travel or business travel. People are flying. And there's various theories behind that. I have my own as to why we are seeing these volumes. But that second pillar are the capital projects, doing them on time, on budget, and making sure we can accommodate these large increases. The third pillar of this Vision 100 is globalization. We want to open up this region to the world. We want to particularly open up the continent of Africa to this region. And it's not just opening up the continent of Africa or other far-flung areas just to be doing it. It's to make sure that our local businesses have a shot to work internationally. It is exposing our citizenry to other cultures and other areas. It is really opening up the world to the Rocky Mountain region. The fourth and last pillar is taking care of what we already have. This is called asset management. This is called state of good repair. We need, while the capital programs and the new projects are exciting, which they are, I would make an argument that it's more important that we take care of what we already have, and that is the escalators here. That is the moving sidewalks. Those are the restrooms. All of the things that we already have, we are paying very, very close attention to asset management on a conditional basis and not so much an age-based system. We are still the youngest airport in this country, but we're 26 years old and we're aging. And so the need for us to make sure that our existing assets are well cared for is very, very important. And I have been talking about that from the very day I got here, and we will continue to. I think my daughter was telling me that, and I have two grand twins. She said, hey, listen, when I go to the airport, there's two things I'm looking for: the bathroom and someplace to eat. And so while we talk about a lot of the inside baseball things of the airport, what people really want is for the bathrooms to be clean, for the conveyances to work, and to get to their gates. And that is what we are focusing on, along with all the other things. Now, let me just say that that Vision 100 that I just laid out in those four pillars, the guiding principles of those are customer service, equity, diversity, and inclusion, customer service, and feedback from our stakeholders. Those are the guiding principles of that Vision 100. And that Vision 100 is simply the first phase of what I call Operation 2050, which is about 150 million more passengers by 2050. And so we're in a unique position here in terms of where we are geographically with this airport. And we are in a unique position because we have room to grow. We have more land at this airport than any other airport in the world except for one. So we have room to grow where the other airports, the LaGuardias of the world, the O'Haras of the world, don't have that room in terms of land mass to expand. We have that distinction. And we should take advantage of it and build what the mayor talks about as an aerotropolis. But even more than that, we should make sure that the people that live here, youngsters, can take advantage of the aviation industry in terms of a career. And so we will be focused on that as well. So I will stop there. I know that you might have a number of questions, and I am ready to take those questions.
Bill?
Yes, sir.
Can you talk more about these 4 temporary lanes? What's the timeline for that? Where will they go?
I want to have those lanes done by early next year. And, you know, it may be tight to get them done by the end of the year for the holidays, but we are pressing to get those done. That is one of my first priorities, top priorities, I should say. We've got to do that, and we've got to shoehorn, I'll call it, these lanes into the existing footprint. And that's tough. It's going to be tough, but I think we can do it.
How do you anticipate that construction of the lanes impacting time through it while you're building?
I don't think it'll be a big impact. You know, obviously we have to watch how we do that. Maybe we can do that in the off hours, the off-peak period of travel. But we're going to do our best to build around the existing operation, and that is always tough. Again, I give that example of renovating your house while you're still living in it.
Obviously, we have these unprecedented long lines that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Has there been any talks about coordinating with airlines when we do have a particularly long day, that maybe they could be more flexible with passengers who get there too late or miss the flight and are running into problems specifically because of these long lines?
We definitely would welcome coordinating with the airlines. We do that already. And we meet with the airlines. You know, some of our folks meet with them twice a week. I meet with them maybe once or twice a month. So we are already talking to them about that. But understand, you know, the volume of traffic all over the country and the impact that one airport can have on the traffic for the entire country. And so we got to think about that and understand what the airlines are challenged with as well. But we are coordinating that.
You mentioned opening up the shuttle lots this weekend.
Yeah.
Are we able to do that this weekend, but not able to do that more long term? Are you bringing in extra people just for the short term? And also, we've heard this before, but you know, in terms of bringing in more drivers,
Yeah.
is there any chance of maybe adding additional money to up the salary to bring in more people? I mean, we're seeing TSAs that bring in bonuses and stuff. Is that
Yeah.
something you're also looking to do? To bring this in?
We are looking to do everything that we possibly can to open up those lots. And, you know, I mentioned the vans that we're using. That is allowing us to temporarily open the lots with those vehicles. We've got a job fair this weekend, tomorrow, I believe. Is it tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow. We're doing everything that we possibly can to get those lots open. We understand, you know, the challenge that people have. We're also working with RTD on the A-line to, you know, increase frequency, particularly the earlier trains for our concession workers to get out here earlier as well. I mean, with more passengers, it impacts everything that we do, right? More passengers require us to open and stay open longer on the concession side. There are shortages on the concession side as well. So we're doing everything that we possibly can with those shuttle lots.
Just to follow up with that, is this gonna be like a trial run then for those minivans that you're using, the non-CDL drivers?
Well, I think in terms of changing the contract to not require CDLs, I think should be permanent. Because, this is going to be an ongoing issue as these passenger volumes increase. So that waiver in the contract to get rid of that requirement is not temporary in my mind. That needs to be something that is ongoing. And I'm not one to tell anybody how to do their business, but I think the school districts should think about that. I think, there's bus operator shortages all over this country. And truck driver shortages, which is what is leading to the incredible logistics backup at our ports, both in Los Angeles and on the East Coast. So the driver shortage, whether it's trucks or buses, is a huge challenge for this country right now.
Mr. Washington, 3 months on the job, sir, what are your most poignant observations?
My most poignant observations, I think, and I must say I kind of already knew this, but that's the dedication and the expertise of the public servants that we have at this airport.
Phil, what's at stake here? I mean, first of all, are we seeing any loss of business because of the long lines parking, the troubles right now? Or do we face that, or is this just a matter of convenience?
I don't think it's a loss of business. I wouldn't say that. These are, they're growing pains, right? They're growing pains of an airport, again, that is strategically located in the middle of the country. There's one thing to not do anything about the growing pains. There's quite another thing to do what we're doing, and that is to address the issues and to try to take advantage of the growth. Taking advantage of the growth means, in my mind, creating more opportunities for small business concessions. In my mind, it's having more career and job opportunities for people that are in this community. And so I choose to look at this not as a big problem. Now, obviously, we don't want folks waiting in line for 45 minutes and an hour in security lines, which is why we're doing something about it. But we are looking to take advantage of our challenges in this area.
Why approve the growth and the extra flights before you have the infrastructure to handle it?
I think right now, the passenger increase in the volumes are going to come whether we want them or not. They're going to come. I mean, this airport, again, designed for 50 million passengers, I think over the last, as an observer, over the last 15 years or so, there's been this anticipation that passenger volumes would grow. I think they're growing much faster than what was anticipated. There's a catch-up element here of trying to build the infrastructure to accommodate the growth. So if we do nothing, which is not an option, this thing is going to bust at the seams.
But is there a mechanism or somebody who can say, we gotta pump the brakes, we can't handle more flights coming in, we gotta limit it before these things are built?
No, I think we are handling it, though, with 39 new gates, with the construction of the Great Hall. I think we are handling it. And so I think that we're not defeatist. We will continue to build to accommodate that growth, and we're doing that. You're seeing that now.
So, we The passengers that we have coming through now are not as big as they were 2 years ago, but there may be some dynamics that are different, like fewer business travelers, more leisure travelers. Is
Yeah.
that dynamic
Yeah.
why these lines are different than they were when we have the same numbers or more 2 years ago?
I think so. I think so. When you look at the leisure traveler, right, it's a different traveler than the business traveler, right? The business traveler is, used to traveling. They may have TSA pre. They have one bag carry on. They're used to traveling. Right now, we're at about 80-20. 80% leisure, 20% business. Typically, you're at about 60-40, 60% leisure, 40% business. Now, it depends on who you talk to as to when the business travel will return. And I've talked to various airline executives. Some of them say early next year, some of them say not until 2023. But this increase is primarily leisure. They have the kids, they have, the extended family traveling with them. They may not be as experienced travelers, which could contribute to longer times. But having said that, we have to service everyone, and we do.
You talked about the janitorial strike that we had. What
Yeah.
about, where are we at with the HSS security workers?
Those negotiations are still going on. We are monitoring that. We will continue to monitor that over the next couple of weeks, but it's still going on right now.
But what's DIA's social media strategy? It seems like in the mornings when people get here and the lines are long, you're taking a black eye on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. What's DIA's social media strategy to address that, to protect reputation for the rest of the country?
Well, I think our strategy is to do what we've been doing, and that is putting out and encouraging people to be in the airport 2 hours prior. Not leave your house 2 hours prior, but actually be in the airport 2 hours prior. And what we've said is if you're using, the Pikes Peak lot or other lots to tack on, 30 to 45 minutes to that because you have an outlying lot. So, we are putting out those messages right now on social media. I hate to see the disgruntled passenger, but I would feel worse if we didn't have a plan.
And speaking of plans, it was about a month ago when the trains, the shuttle,
Yeah.
the terminals went down.
Mhm.
Obviously, that was a huge black eye on Denver.
Yeah.
For 6 hours span.
Mhm.
What's the plan moving forward? I've traveled here twice in the last month. I've seen these trains down, these running down at
Mhm.
that time. What's the plan moving forward to try to alleviate any issue if that ever happens again?
Well, let me just say this. It's a huge vulnerability for this airport. It is. To have one way to get people out to concourse B and C, huge vulnerability. So what I've directed is for us to put out what I call a problem statement or a request for information to the private sector on how we can resolve this issue. Now that will go out, if it's not out to the private sector already, it's going to go out today or Monday. And I'm looking at our, when?
Early next week.
Okay, early next week. That is going out to the private sector. We have a problem statement. We're happy to share that with you. I think it's a public document. We're happy to share that with you. And so what we've said is, listen, I don't want to think we have all the answers in this building. We're going out to the private sector when we're asking them for ideas how to solve this issue. Now, at the same time, the magnitude of that breakdown was unprecedented, right? So the magnitude of that breakdown, which was a failure of a metal part within the wheel assembly that not only tore up the wheel, but ripped up the track. And so typically when, you're on rail, if you rip up a wheel, you can take that wheel off, the track is still good, but it ripped up the track. And so that prevented us from running trains on that track. Now, that's the first time that that has happened to that degree in 26 years at this airport. And so while we are putting out that RFI, a request for information from the private sector, I think we have to understand and do a cost-benefit analysis to say, do you spend $200 or $300 million to do a walkway or a tunnel or something like that to walk? You have to do a cost-benefit analysis to say, you've had this happen once in 26 years. Do you spend that money to solve something that is like the 100-year flood? You know what I mean? And so that is what that I've been doing is to make that determination. And so it's a tough call because you don't want these things to happen.
How many employees would you estimate DIA is down right now? Out of how many?
Are you talking about concessions and just all the employees here at the airport?
Operations, yeah. You can take them separately or.
Well, let me just go with the total number. I mean, we've got, 33,000 people out here or something. There are extreme shortages at some of the concessionaires or the concessions. And, that led to some of the concessions closing early. I just signed a policy requiring them to stay open till 10 p.m. With those increased volumes of passengers, you've got to have food in the airport. And so this is a sort of a staffing phenomena that's occurring all over this country. It's not just in. So it is, it's a big challenge. Now, in terms of the employees here, the city employees, we've got some vacancies, but it is not hindering our ability to run this airport. We are bringing a number of folks on in critical positions, but I don't think it threatens us to operate this airport. We do it every single day with some very high qualified people.
And speaking of the labor shortages, when it comes to the wait times for luggage, what is that like right now, and how do you plan on shortening those wait times
For luggage?
Yeah.
I don't think we have, obviously we want to do that very quickly, but I don't think we have a huge issue with that. I have not heard that. I traveled just last week. I mentioned that I met with the TSA administrator and the Federal Aviation administrator earlier this week, and I had to check a bag, and my bag got to the carousel before I did. So there you go.
Phil, you talked about Vision 100 and the Vision 2050.
Yeah.
150 million passengers
Yeah.
seems pretty damn wild for DIA. We're growing in the Denver area, but not nearly that fast.
Yeah.
How do you get to that number?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's that far-fetched, right? Now, when we were planning, when this airport was built, it was planned for 50 million. Back in, it opened in 1995. People had no idea we would be at 70 million now. You know what I mean? So when you build these huge infrastructure projects, and not just here at the airport, but just infrastructure in general around the country, whether it's the Gateway Project in New York, whether it's the Sepulveda Pass in Los Angeles, whatever you have to plan 30 years out. Today, tomorrow actually is today. I think what's happening here with aviation, and this is just my theory, but the Earth's population by 2050 is going to increase to 9 or 10 billion people on this Earth. And most of those people, about 70% of those people will be in urban regions. And there will be maybe 12 to 15 mega regions in this world. And with technology, the advanced technology around aviation and aircraft, I think people are going to use airports and airplanes like taxis all over this world. There will be, I believe, technology that can fly planes faster. There will be commuting, people working and commuting via airports. So I think it's not too far-fetched to think about 2050 with 140 to 150 million passengers here. Now, the question is, and again, the fact that we are geographically situated better than any other airport, I think, in the country, right, where you can go in either direction very quickly, this puts us in a unique position, a very unique position. So I think when we think about how we accommodate that many, we need to think about how we build. Do we build east and west of the terminal and go out that way where you do not need to extend the train to a concourse D? Maybe we do that. We are already looking at ways, and we have a consultant on board right now that I've had 3 briefings with to lay out ideas on how we can expand and accommodate. And we're thinking about that. And guess what? We should think about that. We should. We absolutely should, because we do not want to be in a situation. The question was, why are you building after the people come? The young lady. Well, we're doing the opposite now, right? We're saying we should be thinking about 2050 and 140, 150 million passengers before they get here. Hopefully we're not criticized for that.
We saw Southwest cancel tons of flights several weeks ago, and that wasn't the first time this year that happened. What kind of impact did that have on the airport, and are you planning for more disruptions on the airline side during the holiday season, and what does that look like?
Well, I mean, we always plan for, some of these things, but instead of pointing the finger at an airlines, I mean, I know that happened. My stance is to work with them to lessen that and to mitigate what can happen. And so we worked with Southwest. We had to accommodate, I think, 500 people that night that were stuck here with blankets and things like that. So we will continue to work with the airlines because they don't get up in the morning and say we're going to cancel 1,800 flights. I mean these things just happen.
Phil, you had a new contract in place this year with for janitorial. There are labor issues and their contract negotiations notwithstanding. That contract was correcting for some not good performance by the prior contractor, and a lot of higher standards for the new contractor. I still hear a lot of complaints though about cleanliness in bathrooms, about dirty bathrooms, about just splotches all over the airport. Is that a problem, and what are you guys doing to hold the contractor to be compliant?
We got a lot of work to do in that area. We've got a lot of work to do in that area. I've told our operations chief and our maintenance folks that the restrooms and the cleanliness of this airport is one of my top priorities, if not the top priority. We've got a lot of work to do around that. We have talked about restroom attendants. We have talked about additional janitorial contracts. We have talked about any number of things to make sure those restrooms are clean. I think you're going to see an improvement there very, very soon. Again, the impact of increased passenger volumes they have impacts all over the airport. Now you have more people using the restrooms, and so you might have an attendant in there cleaning, and then they leave, and 30 minutes later, or 15 minutes later, overflow because of the increased passenger volume. So we need to increase the frequency of attendance in the bathrooms to keep them clean. So my hope is that our passengers will see improvements there. We're going to increase the frequency of cleaning, which may mean bringing on more janitorial contracts, or companies, I should say.
The union, when they had their one-day action, was complaining not only about wages, but about understaffing, and I imagine that the labor shortage is affecting the janitorial department too, given those jobs. But to what extent is understaffing a problem with these kind of issues that passengers see?
I think that is contributing to it. That is contributing to it. It's an issue, and we're working with the contractor to make sure that we can help with that. We've had 3 hiring fairs here, job fairs. We'll have more. We're going to bring on more companies to help with that. So we'll continue to work with them, but that is an issue.
Phil, I know a lot of your concentration right now is on the short term, but has all of this made you rethink phase 3 and the scope of what needs to be done? Either looking at it as maybe we pull back, or maybe we need to do more than we had originally planned?
We are going through that discussion right now on phase 3, the final phase. I'll say this, doing nothing is not an option, right? And I am I like to play, the sports analogy, long ball. So I like playing long ball. Doing, halfway kinds of things never work, in my opinion. And so while we are looking at the scope, reviewing the scope, and determining what that scope is, I think that Vision 100 and that Operation 2050, I think that's pretty clear where I'm at.
Those additional TSA lanes, I just wanted to clear up something real quick. Where would they be actually located? I mean, would they be directly next to the other TSA lanes?
Yeah.
Could you just give me an idea, so when I explain this to people today, that I have
We're still looking at the location, but we're looking at the southeast area of the airport to create some those additional lanes. But we're going to have to do it where there's the least operational impact, right? But initially, we're looking at the southeast area, which is literally right outside this door on the other end.
So it would be like a new section or part of?
We're going to shoehorn some things in, and then there'll probably be a new area to have at least 2 of those 4 additional lanes, if that makes sense. But this is all about shoehorning new infrastructure into an existing airport. I like to say, this is the same airport but more people, and that is really a product of our success, right? And the increased passenger volumes. I'm not sure where all the folks are coming from. You know what I mean? It's a phenomenon. You know what I mean? It really is.
And just to be clear about the lines, you do not expect those to be open before the holiday travel season?
We're going to do our very best, but my thought is that it won't be until early next year.
The phase 2 got underway over the summer. In
Yeah.
August, you put up construction walls, including blocking up, what was it, 6 or 8 of the north security lines.
Yeah.
In retrospect, did that catch you guys flat-footed for the surge in the fall?
No, I don't think it caught us
Those
flat-footed.
8 lines would be really nice right now.
Yeah. It didn't catch us flat-footed. I mean, I think we had to do what we did then. We will, when you build large infrastructure projects and you have this great amount of people coming in. There's adjustments that have to be made. These are ongoing adjustments, which is why we walk the terminal, every day. I mean, listen, we definitely get